Hey guys, what's up? So this weekend we had the South America World Championship Qualifier, the tournament that likewise the European one and the North America one will award some players the spot to play at the World Championship of Yu-Gi-Oh! Representing the South America. And after I uploaded my top 8 deck profile in this channel, you can look on the channel to see what I played to make it into the top 8. I'm also going to go and look up of how the top 64 of this event went up. So this is the final event before the new collection drops, and I know many of you guys are not very happy about the Snake Eyes stuff, about how dominant this stuff is, but I still think there is a lot of interesting things that we can comment right now, that we can talk right now, especially because of how we got the impact of new decks from the most recent collection. For example, we had Yubel being the third most represented deck, we had 2 Ritual Beasts making into the top cut, and I think this is gonna be very interesting, so we can give at least a good approach. So out of our top 64 we can see that we got 21 Snake Eyes and then 8 Tenpais, 7 Yubels, 3 Fire King Snake Eyes, what I think is just another variation of Snake Eye, so we can basically say that we had 24 Snake Eyes, and then triple Branded, triple Melodious, triple Plant Link, 2 Ritual Beasts, 2 Runic Stuns, 2 Unchained, 1 Sprite, 1 Fronderies, 1 Charlaments, 1 Centurion, 1 Chimera, 1 Kashira, 1 Dark Ward, and 1 Labyrinth. We still are missing 1 deck that we don't know. If you by any chance know who is Felix Gabriel Parra Soares, please help us to complete this. But basically, it's very interesting to see how what Josh Smith is pointing out from a long time ago is always proving itself to be true. We are in a very interesting and diverse format if we exclude the Snake Eyes. Like, if we take out the Snake Eyes from this chart, we have a very interesting and very diverse metagame where plenty of decks and options can make you go well on the tournament. But even if we look for the Snake Eyes, yes, of course, it's the most dominant deck and is the best deck of the room. But of the top 8, we had 1 Sprite, 5 Snake Eyes, 1 Yubel, and 1 Ritual Beast. So it's not like the kinda of tier 0 where you can only try and go to play this deck. Especially because we can see that the event by itself was won by Sprites. Yeah, out of all decks, out of 1 deck in top 64, the winning deck from the event was Sprite. I was one of the Snake Eyes players this Sprite defeated on the top cut. I lost to him on top 8. So I can assure you guys how well this deck is built to beat the Snake Eyes and how the deck performed well as it was intended to be. So we can go and look for some of the deck lists, but I'm gonna focus right now on the most important deck lists, and then if you wanna check everything besides that, you can just come to yogoprodeck.com and check for all decks, because as you can see here, if you just pass the mouse, we can check a lot of these decks, okay? So the first deck I'm gonna show right now is the Snake Eyes that Francisco Osorio piloted to become the second place at the South America World Championship Qualifier. And as we can see, this is what I have been talking about of a board breaker Snake Eye, right? On my profile, and I highly recommend you guys to go and look my deck profile from this event, because many things that happened on this deck build, for example, were predicted by myself on doing my preparation to this event. But basically a lot of players, and I know this is not the case only of Francisco Osorio, I know that out of the top 8, for example, Joaquin Lichtig also did so, out of top 16 Pablo Cesar and Santiago Marin also did so, and basically they looked for what the regular Snake Eye deck looks like, and they said, okay, there is no way I'm gonna beat this deck if I'm playing just regular hand traps, because this will make the mirror match more based on who drew the best hand. So they took out all the hand traps by the exception of Draw Lock Bird and Infinity Impermanence, and they filled up the spots that you could play no engine with more Kashiro cards. So as we can see, we have triple planet and double Fenrir, double unicorn, but also the triple copies of Forbidden Droplet and the triple copies of Metal Tronus, two very strong board breakers that can be used paired up with Impermanence and Drawlock Bird. The main idea behind this Drawlock Bird is that it's the only hand trap that is decent enough to try to stop your opponent. Okay, of course, you are not gonna end your opponent full combo with Drawlock Bird, but it's the only hand trap that by itself is gonna be able to turn your opponent combo less powerful, and then you can break its board with your engine, with your Kashira cards, or if with your board breakers as Droplet and Metal Tronus. And this is also done again on the side deck when we see copies of Lightning Storm, Mind Control, Change of Heart, a lot of board breakers that are also gonna be played when we are going for the post side. So I know by a fact that a lot of players will call this deck the Italian national deck, because they most likely have the same idea. They have a lot of cash cards, a lot of board breakers, and they are trying to win. And the another approach was the approach I piloted into the top 8, and this approach more focused on playing hand traps, was something that we could check as a regular approach for the Snake Eyes deck. Because, okay, so these decks, they are very different on their souls, because at some point you are not playing hand traps against a deck that is playing 17 hand traps. So what is the point between these two decks? So why I decided to play hand traps? I did a more in-depth explanation on my deck profile, but if you wanna just check right now, you can just, I'm gonna do a small explanation here, and if you wanna check the full profile for a bigger explanation. So basically the idea here is that if your opponent is playing board breakers, it's way more important to play the Hope Harbinger, because the Hope Harbinger will help to negate some of the spells. Of course, that's not the case on Francisco Osorio build, because he's just using the cards that cannot be responded, like Forbidden Droplet, but in many cases there are many players playing cards like triple tactical talents in their main decks, so it's way more important to go for the Hope Harbinger lines. And even if your opponent opens Droplet, the fact that you are putting one more interaction than the regular Snake Eye, because the regular Snake Eye can go for Apollousa, Flamberge the Spelltrap Zone, and Flamberge and IP in the Spelltrap Zone, and that's it. But with this deck, we're still gonna have Fenhirs, we're still gonna have Hope Harbingers, so the cost of your Droplet to win the game is gonna be way more important and impactful than actually just playing the regular Snake Eye. That's why I think it was more beneficial to me to play a more combo oriented deck, going for more interactions instead of just like betting everything on if will my opponent has a board breaker or no. So I think these two are the most important ways to play, the most interesting ways to play the Snake Eyes deck. Right now I think we will have to decide between playing hand traps and playing the board breakers, but I still think both can perform very, very well. I decided to play the hand trap approach because I feel like in a mirror match of board breakers, there is no thing like an edge on your gameplay, or it's gonna be way more try to draw the best hand as possible than in the hand trap mirror match. So that's why I decided to play for the hand trap side. And then we have the Tenpai Dragon, the second most represented deck over the top 64, and well, I think this deck right now it's not well fit on the format. Like if we can check here, out of the 8 Senpai Dragons, just 2 of them made into top 16 and none of them made into top 8, far or finals. And this deck has a big problem over itself. It's like many decks in the format are playing in a very different way right now. We have decks playing, for example, separate interactions. We have the Yubel, for example, going for more aggressive combos, and you don't have in your deck, in your Tenpai strategy, enough ways to try to beat everything on the format. When it was just Snake Eyes, I think that would be more fair to do so. But right now, with a very open format, like as we can see, we have plenty of decks here besides the regular Snake Eye. I feel like Tenpai can't perform that well. Even though you are playing a very interesting list like this one, which is playing 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 hand traps, plus Droplet, plus Duster, plus Lightning Storm, and this also playing as much as consistency cards you can play in your 41 cards deck. I just think it's not the right moment to play Tenpais in this format. Of course, this can change with the new Tenpai card, but who knows, right? And then the big surprise of this weekend is how well the Yubel deck performed. Out of the top 64, again, we had 7 Yubels, so it was the third most represented deck. And I think this kind of pays on how good this deck is. This is the deck piloted by Aldo Elvis Castillo, and as this deck we can check that he's playing triple shifter, triple Ash Blossom, triple impermanence, double droplet, and one super poly. It just plays one copy of super poly because it can be added by Mature Chronicle, but playing this card is an exception. Many players from Yubel are not taking this deck as a Yubel deck. They are using one copy of Yubel, one copy of Terror Incarnate. They are not even playing the Ultimate Nightmare. They are just playing this deck as a Fiend Link stuff. And Aldo had a different approach on this, going for a more aggressive and more highly Yubel deck. And this actually paid off for him because he went all the way into the top 16. And as we can see, he's still playing the Enchanted cards, like Enchanted Soul Sharvara and the Escape of the Enchanted, because all of the monsters being Fiend lets him go for the Enchanted Soul of Yama. Then he can make the Enchanted Soul of Rage set up with the Escape of the Enchanted. A very interesting approach for the Yubel, and we are gonna see a lot of variations on this deck, especially with the new Fiendsmith cards. I think this deck is one of the decks that can use more the Fiendsmith cards with its own engine. Like, this will help a lot on playing its own engine, so that's very interesting. And then now talking about the winners deck, we are talking about Melfi Sprites. This is a deck that got a very decent support in Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier, and now you have the access for Totally Awesome, a very important card that helps you to set up more negates. But the Sprite deck, especially when going first, it's very strong against any kind of interactions that are popular right now in the format. Like, you put up so many interactions and you separate the interactions because you are also gonna set double cross, you are also gonna have Ash Blossoms, draws, cosmics, droplets. So this is a deck that is almost impossible to lose while you are going first. And also playing a lot of going second side deck cards helps you on doing your approach after side deck, because okay, if you lose dice roll game 1 and you won game 2 going first, you need to have a very aggressive deck while going second so you can try to win your matches. And a very aggressive deck uses Trusts, Mind Controls, Regate, Change of Heart, and copies of back row removal as Feather Duster and Lightning Storm. So I think that's how Sprites won this event. And then now for the end we have the Ritual Beast. Ritual Beast was the other big winner of this event because it won the playoff and was actually got 2 spots of the top 64 of the event, but one Ritual Beast player, and the player from Trinidad and Tobago, Adrian Gregory George, is gonna be playing World Championship after winning the World Qualifier points playoff with Ritual Beast deck. This is his deck list, and as we can see, it's very interesting because he's just siding the Arch Nemesis Protoss. His decision on the main deck was to use the Nemesis flag to add Nemesis Corridor, and this Nemesis will be able to get you into Thunder Dragon Colossus, so you can do all your Ritual Beast stuff while also getting into the Thunder Dragon Colossus. And then you are also playing a very good amount of interactions because we are playing Shifters, Ashes, Veilers, Book of Eclipses, and Infinite Impermanence. I feel like this deck could play one copy of Ghost Ogre to give more value out of your emergency teleport, but this was the decision that Adrian made to this event, and this is the deck that will lead him into the World Championship. So I think that's my call from what we can understand from the South America World Championship Qualifier. If you like this video, please give me a like, share this channel, subscribe, give me a comment down below to help me. And with that being said, thank you and see you next video. Goodbye.